Hey everyone, thanks for being here. I recently spent some meaningful time with Routine, and I want to share what I found. What the game is, how it plays, what the atmosphere is like, how it looks and sounds, and whether it's something you should keep an eye on. At first glance, Routine hits you with eerie simplicity. The setting, the visuals, the ambient tone, it all points to something atmospheric and unsettling. But as I played, I realized it's a lot more layered than mere horror scaffolding. It's about being alone, about space, about the unknown, and about the small decisions that make huge differences. Right off the bat, you land on this isolated lunar facility, and you're immediately aware that you're not in a safe zone. Everything's sterile but flawed. Flickering lights, shadows curling across walls, the hum of machines somewhere deep in the facility. The art direction is minimalist, but with serious atmosphere. The lighting is cold, metallic, and sometimes harsh, and the sound design elevates it. Distant echoes, the hiss of ventilation, the sudden creak when something moves off screen. It all builds tension. And I noticed that the game doesn't rely on cheap jump scares. Instead, it uses space, silence, and isolation to get under your skin, which is far more effective. In terms of gameplay, Routine combines first-person horror, exploration, puzzle solving, and stealth in interesting ways. You're not sprinting around guns blazing. You're creeping through corridors, investigating glitched sections of the world, working machinery, solving environmental puzzles, and often hiding or running when things go wrong. The pacing is slower, deliberate. You'll spend time looking at panels, checking logs, repairing systems, all while aware that something could happen at any moment. The game encourages caution, observation, and patience, which I personally found refreshing. It reminded me that survival horror doesn't always need non-stop adrenaline. Sometimes the dread of what might happen is enough. Routine also has a layered narrative. The lunar base you're in has gone dark. Communication is cut off. Systems are failing. And you, as the player, gradually uncover what happened. The story is told through logs, terminals, spatial storytelling, and subtle visual cues. There's a sense of regret, of machinery turning against humanity, of the vastness of space and how small you are. I found myself reading terminal logs for longer than I expected, just to piece together fragments of what led to the disaster. That level of detail shows the developers cared about the world. Graphics-wise, while Routine is not about ultra-realistic details, it uses its art style to maximum effect. The corridors have a lived-in feel, wires hanging, lights flickering, the floor panels misaligned. When you walk into a large open hangar and see the lunar surface outside through thick windows, you get this moment of, wow, I'm really out here. The textures are clean, the particle effects subtle but effective, and the animations smooth enough to keep you immersed. I did notice that some areas reuse assets, and some corners feel less detailed than others, but nothing that pulled me out of the experience. The ambiance covers a lot of ground. Now, you may be wondering, is this a co-op game? The answer, from what I found, is no. Routine is built as a single-player experience, and I think that's the right move. The game thrives on solitude, on you alone with the environment, with your thoughts, with your fear. Adding multiplayer would dilute that. I found that alone in the facility, hearing a distant noise, looking at screens flashing error codes, I'd pick up the controller and lean forward because something felt wrong. That kind of connection might not happen if someone else was talking in voice chat next to you. One of the standout moments for me came when I reached a section of the facility that had a massive circular window looking onto the moon's surface. Outside, stars were sharp. The lunar dust floated in the low-gravity light, and inside the base, the lights were failing. I paused and realized how small my character seemed. And then the facility lights flickered, the sound of metal bending echoed in the hallway, and I knew I had to move or else remain stuck in that moment. That moment made me appreciate how the game uses contrast, beauty versus decay, silence versus tension, the cosmos versus human fragility. The systems of the game support that atmosphere. There's resource management, but in a light way. You'll find tools, access control cards, parts, you'll fix machinery, open locked doors. Sometimes you'll shut down failing systems so you can bypass hazards. The puzzles are integrated into the world, not thrown at you in the form of overt puzzle rooms. They're part of the environment. For example, you might be in a server room, lights blinking, fans rattling, and you need to reset power and reroute systems while crouching because a large mechanical creature is getting closer. That blend of mechanics and atmosphere is where routine shines. One thing I appreciated was how the game treats failure. It doesn't feel unfair. When you die, you often understand why. Maybe you ignored a warning, maybe you got careless, maybe you thought you could sneak past something you shouldn't have. And that keeps you engaged rather than frustrated. The checkpoints are generous enough to let you experiment, but not so generous that you're never at risk. The fear stays present, and the risk feels real. On the downside, the pacing will not be for everyone. If you're used to action-packed horror games with frequent jump scares, huge arenas, or co-op mayhem, then routine might feel slower, more meditative. Some sections involve reading, investigation, and walking, not just fighting. And I did find a few parts where I wandered a bit too long trying to find where to go next, so the navigation could be clearer. But I think those moments also built suspense rather than breaking it. In terms of replay value, I think routine offers more than many think. Because of the environmental storytelling and hidden logs, I found myself backtracking just to read something I missed, to trigger ambient events, to replay a segment with a different mindset. While it might not have endless replay like some co-op survival titles, it offers a rich experience that stays with you. My final feeling is this. Routine is one of those survival horror games that gets the little things right. The flicker of a light, the distant hum of an abandoned base, the sense of isolation on the moon, the tiny mechanical sounds that tell you you're not alone. It doesn't rely on big set pieces alone. It builds mood, then enhances it with moments of tension and release. If you're a fan of atmospheric horror, if you like exploration, if you enjoy being alone in a world that's beautiful and broken, then routine is definitely something I'd recommend. It may not be everyone's style, but for those who appreciate subtlety, mystery, and a craftfully designed world, it's special. I'm excited to see how this game evolves, what players uncover, how the story resonates, and whether the full version adds even more of the space horror meets abandonment feeling it so strongly delivers now. Thanks for listening and spending time with me through this review. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.